My fiancée fell in love with the poor student she sponsored. She insisted on breaking off our engagement, turning a deaf ear to pleas from friends and family. My father's blood pressure shot up in anger, and my mother nearly collapsed and had to be hospitalized. Overnight, my family became the laughingstock of high society. But what no one expected was that we immediately started planning our countermove that very day. My mother pulled out her phone. "We'll arrange a new match for you. How about the most beautiful woman in Pacific Heights?" My father spoke coldly. "Cancel the cooperation. Cut off the $1. $5 billion in funds subsidizing her family." A small smile played on my lips. "How about you let me handle both of those things personally?" 3 months later, I hosted a dinner party, ostensibly to announce my engagement to Pacific Heights top beauty. The guests were all elites and aristocrats, many of them friends I'd grown up with. I've been so busy with work these past few years, rarely attending such events, and had drifted apart from many old friends. I took this chance to catch up. They all lamented the end of my relationship with Victoria Foster, saying how sorry they felt for me. I gave a relaxed smile. It's all in the past. If she's found her happiness, I'm happy for her too. My friends called me foolish, advising me against being so understanding. But I knew my father was about to cut off all financial support to Foster Enterprises. For now, all I needed to do was project magnanimity. Suddenly, the doors to the ballroom swung open. A familiar silhouette appeared, framed by a blinding light. My gaze fixed, confirming it was my ex-fiancée and her current boyfriend. The atmosphere instantly turned awkward. People around me made stilted small talk, trying to console me. Murmurs went through the crowd. "What's she doing here? She certainly has thick skin. Is that the social climber next to her? He pales in comparison to Michael Harrison." I waved dismissively, signaling to my nearby friends that I was fine. Then, putting on a welcoming smile, I walked up to Victoria Foster and politely extended my hand. "Welcome, Victoria. My apologies for the oversight. I should have arranged for someone to meet you." Victoria Foster paused, then shook my hand. I generously introduced her to everyone. "This is Miss Foster of Foster Enterprises, whom I'm sure you all know. And the gentleman beside her is her boyfriend, Ryan Ellis, a student she once sponsored." For a moment, Victoria Foster couldn't tell if I was genuinely letting bygones be bygones or deliberately trying to embarrass her. After exchanging brief greetings, she took Ryan Ellis to an empty table in the corner. I approached them with my friends in tow. "Miss Foster, you seem a bit uncomfortable tonight. We're all friends here. Care to join us for a few drinks?" It was clear Victoria Foster wanted to refuse. But my friends didn't give her an out, instead starting to egg her on. Surely Miss Foster wouldn't refuse Michael this small courtesy? Victoria had only come to this party tonight because, in the 2 years since I took over Harrison Group, it had rapidly grown into the most formidable conglomerate in Pacific Heights, while Foster Enterprises' position had become precarious. If my father hadn't consistently helped her family out all these years, solely out of consideration for the alliance between our families, Foster Enterprises might have already gone under. Early last year, their cash flow dried up. If my father hadn't stepped in with $1.5 billion to prop them up, Foster Enterprises wouldn't exist today. The Foster family's biggest worry now was whether my father would withdraw the funds after Victoria broke off our engagement. 3 months had passed, and while my father hadn't made a move yet, panic had already spread within the Foster family. Many veteran employees from Foster Enterprises had already jumped ship to Harrison Group. Victoria's presence tonight was twofold, partly to gauge my attitude, and partly to smooth things over with Harrison Group. She had no choice but to drink the wine. As Victoria downed glass after glass, Ryan Ellis, standing beside her, clearly looked displeased. I raised my glass toward Ryan Ellis. Victoria Foster quickly grabbed his arm. "Ryan," she urged, "the Foster family owes its success today entirely to Michael's family support. You should have a drink with him." Ryan Ellis came from humble beginnings. He didn't understand the subtleties of the business world. Lost in his own emotions, he shook off Victoria Foster's hand and walked away. Victoria Foster apologized profusely to me. "Michael, Ryan hasn't been feeling well lately. Please excuse him." One of my friends, standing nearby, spoke up indignantly. "Who does Ryan Ellis think he is? Turning down a drink for Michael like that?" I waved dismissively and smiled easily. "Forget it. It's normal for kids to be clueless. The Harrison Group has a reputation to uphold." I added, "It wouldn't look good for me, Michael Harrison, to make a fuss over something so small." Victoria Foster bowed repeatedly, thanking me, her eyes showing a hint of apology before hurrying out after him. I've never been fond of these kinds of events. After smoothing things over with my friends, I went out to the back garden for some fresh air. There, I happened upon Victoria Foster trying to placate Ryan Ellis. She was pleading helplessly, "Ryan, we can't afford to provoke the Harrison Group. Please try to understand my position." Having married into wealth, Ryan Ellis spoke arrogantly. "The great Foster family, afraid of the Harrison Group? Don't be ridiculous. The Fosters would be better off without them." I lowered my head and chuckled, amused by his arrogance and his ignorance. It's true that Foster Enterprises has a much longer history than the Harrison Group. You could say the Foster family's legacy spans the time it took to build 3 Harrison Groups. The Harrison Group, on the other hand, was built from scratch by my father's generation. Perhaps due to good fortune, the Harrison Group is now powerful enough to practically call all the shots. But Foster Enterprises, since Victoria Foster's father's time, has been poorly managed and saddled with an outdated structure. It's nothing more than a recognizable name now. In reality, it's long been an empty shell. Mr. Foster had actually intended to entrust Foster Enterprises to me after our families were joined by marriage. That seems unlikely now. As it is, the company is barely surviving day to day. If my father were to pull his investments, Foster Enterprises would have no chance of recovery and might even collapse under massive debt. Seeing me approach, Victoria Foster looked flustered. "Michael, please don't mind him. Ryan didn't mean anything by it." It felt strange, watching my ex-fiancée address me so formally while making excuses for another man. But I didn't really care about that anymore. Instead, I reassured her, "Ryan Ellis is new to the business world. Give him some time, he'll adjust." Victoria Foster looked surprised. Ryan Ellis, his face full of resentment, shouted at me, "Michael Harrison, stop pretending to be the good guy. Don't think I don't know you're still hung up on Victoria. She only loves me now." Having vented his anger, Ryan Ellis didn't even give me a chance to respond before storming out of the banquet hall. I gave Victoria Foster a helpless smile. Kids are certainly more entertaining than a businessman like me. Quite amusing, really. Victoria Foster relaxed slightly and teased, "Michael, you're hardly just a businessman. You're clearly the alpha CEO type." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so you think quite highly of me, Victoria?" Victoria Foster gave a wry smile. "I was the one who didn't appreciate what I had. How have you been lately?" I smiled at her gently, just like I used to. "Me? I'd say I'm probably doing a bit better than you are." Inside the ballroom, the host's voice echoed. I glanced at Victoria Foster. "The party's about to start. Let's head back." Tonight was the night I planned to announce my big news. I couldn't let Victoria delay things. Walking back to the ballroom with her, I couldn't help but smirk. The show was about to begin. I stood center stage as Emily Sullivan, the most beautiful woman in Pacific Heights, descended the spiral staircase in a stunning designer gown. She walked onto the stage and gently took my arm. I gazed at her, my eyes filled with an affection even deeper than what I once felt for Victoria. I patted her hand reassuringly, then turned to the guests. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce my fiancée, Emily Sullivan." A slightly shy smile played on Emily Sullivan's lips as she raised her hand in greeting. "I hope everyone will welcome me," she said softly. The guests burst into applause. "Isn't she so much better than that Victoria Foster?" Seriously, Victoria never appreciated what she had. Michael Harrison could have anyone. He must have been blind back then. I cleared my throat. "Wedding invitations will be sent out soon. I hope you all can attend." Amid the cheerful noise, I looked down at Victoria Foster in the audience. Just as I expected, the color had drained from her face, as if she'd been struck by a heavy blow. Sure enough, before I even got home, an iMessage popped up on my phone from Victoria Foster. "Michael Harrison, I can't believe you're getting married so soon. I wish you happiness." Calmly, I pushed my glasses up. "I won't be around to take care of you anymore. Take care of yourself. Your back isn't great. Use heating pads during rainy days. And you get those frequent migraines. Remember to keep medicine on your nightstand." I hit send on a message I'd prepared long ago for Victoria Foster. She didn't reply for a long time. Perhaps she was reminiscing about how good I used to be to her. I didn't dwell on it. I went home, took a shower, and went to bed early. The next morning, the first thing I saw when I checked my phone was a message Victoria Foster had sent in the middle of the night. "I was wrong back then. If I had another chance, I would have married you without hesitation. But it's too late for that now." I stretched lazily. Everything was going according to plan. Let the past be the past. After all this time, even if we can't be husband and wife, we can still be friends, right? Victoria Foster must not have slept all night. Before I could even put my phone down, she replied instantly, "Yes, yes. We're still good friends. Forever." I shook my head. Victoria Foster was so easy to fool. No wonder someone like Ryan Ellis could wrap her around his little finger. Maybe I'd just been too sincere with her before. Women like her just follow whoever feeds them sweet talk and flattery. Right then, I put down my phone and looked at Emily Sullivan sleeping peacefully beside me, feeling an immense sense of peace. In terms of family background and looks, she was miles better than Victoria Foster, yet somehow more innocent and kind. We'd only known each other for 3 months, but being with her felt incredibly comfortable and relaxing. Maybe this is what finding the right person feels like. I heard Ryan Ellis and Victoria Foster had a huge fight after the party. He insisted she was still thinking about me. Maybe the old Victoria Foster had been completely under his spell, but after that huge fight they had following my engagement party, it was inevitable she'd start thinking about me again. After all, I used to be the one chasing after Victoria Foster. Maybe she naively thought I'd always be waiting if she ever looked back. But faced with the news of my sudden engagement, and looking at this immature little boy in front of her, how could Victoria Foster not have second thoughts? 2 days later, I was in my office dealing with some documents when my secretary suddenly came in and told me Victoria Foster was here. I smiled. "Show her in, please." Victoria Foster walked in looking a bit awkward. "Am I interrupting?" I closed the file. "Not at all. I just finished up. How about I take you to that restaurant you love later?" Victoria Foster looked surprised. I scratched my head, feigning embarrassment. "Sorry, force of habit. I forgot you have a new boyfriend now." Victoria Foster quickly agreed. "It's okay, I have time. We could just catch up like old friends." I lowered my head, adjusted my glasses, and hid my smile. Of course, I knew she'd say yes. After Victoria Foster broke off our engagement, she had a huge fight with her family. She defied her entire family's opposition to finally get together with Ryan Ellis. But the Foster family knew very well what kind of crisis this would bring to Foster Enterprises. Victoria Foster is the Foster family's only daughter, spoiled since childhood. The Foster elders doted on their daughter too much to really hold her accountable. But Ryan Ellis wasn't so lucky. The Foster elders blamed everything on him, saying he unscrupulously seduced Victoria Foster, causing her to make this huge mistake. They even declared that Foster Enterprises wouldn't give him a single share or even offer him a job within the company. Now, to outsiders, he looks like a social climber who's latched onto someone wealthy, but only he knows how miserable he really is. Originally, with his own talent, he could have joined a good company with plenty of room for advancement. But now, everyone in Pacific Heights is unwilling to hire him, out of consideration for me. Now, he can only live like a parasite, relying on Victoria Foster for everything. If Victoria Foster ever left him, he'd have absolutely nothing. Seen this way, his current state of anxiety and paranoia makes perfect sense. His mistake, however, was drowning his sorrows in alcohol and even sleeping with some hostess for a moment's pleasure. Victoria Foster still seemed completely unaware of this. Her mind was apparently preoccupied with figuring out how to get closer to me again. Looking at this woman, her face full of anticipation, I couldn't help thinking, what a foolish woman. Good thing I didn't marry her. Although it was my dad's decision to withdraw investment from Foster Enterprises, he put me in charge of executing it, just as I'd asked. The reason I haven't acted yet is simply that I've been waiting for the right moment. It seems that moment is almost here. Once Victoria Foster receives those compromising photos of Ryan Ellis, I'll use the potential scandal as a pretext to withdraw our support from Foster Enterprises. I hope Victoria Foster won't blame me for being ruthless when the time comes. After all, she was the one who betrayed me, caused my dad's blood pressure to skyrocket, and nearly sent my mom to the hospital in shock. I'm just giving her an eye for an eye. After finishing work, I slowly stretched. My gaze fell on Victoria Foster, who was still waiting for me on the sofa. She was playing on her phone and slowly looked up. "All done." I nodded. Victoria Foster said gently, "You must be tired. I never realized how demanding your work is every day." She added, "Seeing you work for the first time, you look quite handsome." I gave a wry smile. In the past, I always made sure I looked presentable before seeing her, never wanting her to see me exhausted. I always tried my best to squeeze out as much time as possible to be with her, but I never received even a hint of consideration in return. Now, trying to win me over, she had become gentle and understanding. Perhaps she would never know that during the 2 hours she waited for me, I was preparing for the aftermath of severing ties with Foster Enterprises. I put on my jacket, and before I could say anything, Victoria Foster quickly stood up. "Ready to go." I nodded and had the driver arrange for the car. On the way, Victoria Foster and I didn't exchange a word. The silence in the air was almost unnerving. The silence was finally broken when Victoria Foster's phone rang. She instinctively moved to hang up, but I quickly grabbed her arm. "We still have a ways to go to the restaurant." "Go ahead, answer it." Looking a bit confused, Victoria Foster nodded. "Okay." As soon as the call connected, Victoria Foster's expression suddenly turned frantic. I guess she had probably just found out about Ryan Ellis. After hanging up, she immediately dialed Ryan Ellis's number. But no matter how many times she called, it went unanswered. She clutched her phone tightly, her brow furrowed. I asked in a mock-concerned tone, "Is something wrong?" Only then did Victoria Foster seem to remember I was beside her. She quickly composed herself. "Michael Harrison, I can't make it to dinner tonight. Another time, I'll treat you next time." I smiled gently. "All right, if something's come up, go take care of it. Do you need a ride?" Looking slightly embarrassed, Victoria Foster quickly refused. No, just drop me off here. I'll get a cab myself." I didn't press further, just nodded to the driver to pull over. After Victoria Foster got out, I watched through the rearview mirror as she stood by the roadside, still frantically trying to make calls. But the anxious look on her face suggested she still wasn't getting through. I dial my subordinate. "Blow this whole thing up. I want to see it in the news tonight. First thing tomorrow morning, send the divestment plan we prepared over to Foster Enterprises." With Harrison Group's current influence, the news would spread throughout Pacific Heights within an hour. By then, it wouldn't matter even if Ryan Ellis got on his knees and begged me. The driver asked cautiously, "Michael, where to now?" I looked out the window. "Go pick up Emily." Actually, I never intended to have dinner with Victoria Foster tonight. I had arranged everything long before she arrived, knowing precisely that she would find out about everything Ryan Ellis had done at 6:30 p.m. tonight. This restaurant reservation was originally made for Emily Sullivan and me. Victoria Foster just happened to walk right into it. I merely wanted to see her reaction firsthand when she got the news. As the car entered Emily Sullivan's neighborhood, I saw her running towards me, bouncing happily. The moment she got in, she grabbed my hand excitedly and kissed my cheek. "Thank you for making time to have dinner with me when you're so busy." I was a little surprised. This kind of gesture would have been taken for granted by Victoria Foster. Yet here was this girl, 100 times better than her, appreciating it. Maybe it has something to do with upbringing, I thought. Victoria Foster was spoiled rotten, arrogant, and demanding, always thinking the world should revolve around her. I patted Emily Sullivan's head. "I'm sorry, I haven't been able to spend much time with you lately. How about we take a trip abroad once things settle down?" Emily Sullivan agreed excitedly. Yes, I want to go to the Maldives." Perhaps a truly healthy relationship is built on mutual understanding and providing positive emotional support for each other. The more time I spent with Emily Sullivan, the more I felt everything I did for Victoria Foster back then just wasn't worth it. After we arrived at the restaurant, I texted my driver, asking him to go check on things over at Victoria Foster's. Shortly after, the driver sent a video. In it, Victoria Foster was kneeling outside the Foster family gate. Mr. and Mrs. Foster only came out after a long while. Mr. Foster immediately laid into Victoria Foster, cursing, "It's all my fault and your mother's for spoiling you rotten. Look at the piece of trash you brought home. Our relationship with the Harrison Group was already precarious because of you, and now with this news about Ryan Ellis, Foster Enterprises stock has plummeted. If the Harrison Group pulls its investment, the stock will crash instantly, and the company will go bankrupt. Have you had it too easy for the past 20-odd years, throwing away a good life for some trouble-making social climber?" Mr. Foster grew angrier as he spoke, raising his hand and slapping Victoria Foster across the face. "Now tell that bastard Ryan Ellis to get his ass back here immediately." Victoria Foster sobbed uncontrollably. "Dad, I can't reach him right now." Hearing this, Mr. Foster became even more furious. He doesn't have the guts to face the consequences now, does he? Hiding away after all that? Wasn't he acting so high and mighty before? Victoria Foster was speechless, only able to keep dialing his number frantically. Just as I finished watching the video, a call came from Victoria Foster. "Michael Harrison, did you see the news? Please, help me. Help Foster Enterprises, okay?" Before, seeing Victoria Foster crying like this would have made me soften. But things were different now. I didn't love her anymore, and besides, I had orchestrated this whole thing. I looked at the innocent face of Emily Sullivan beside me. "I'm sorry, I can't help you. I have to consider the future of the Harrison Group, too." Victoria Foster choked out, refusing to accept it. "I know I was wrong, Michael Harrison. I'll agree to anything you want. Okay? I'll break up with Ryan Ellis tomorrow. I'm begging you." I remained cold. "I'm having dinner with my girlfriend right now. I'll have someone deliver the divestment contract first thing tomorrow. This is my personal time, and I advise you, Miss Foster, not to harass me any further." I thought that would be the end of it, but unexpectedly, when I arrived at the company building the next morning, I saw Victoria Foster waiting anxiously downstairs. Seeing me get out of the car, she rushed over and grabbed my arm. I shook her off. "Miss Foster, Please mind your behavior in public. If you have something to say, let's talk upstairs. Seeing that I had relented slightly, Victoria Foster timidly followed close behind me. The moment I walked into the office, Victoria Foster dropped to her knees in front of me. I didn't even bother looking directly at her. What's this, Miss Foster? Trying to threaten me? Victoria Foster shook her head frantically. No, Michael Harrison, I just wanted to beg for your forgiveness. A smirk touched my lips as I sat down on the sofa, looking at her. You weren't like this when you broke off our engagement. Now that you need something, you come crawling back. Victoria Foster slapped herself across the face several times. It was my fault. I didn't appreciate what I had. I was foolish. I'll do anything. I'll be your slave if you want. I let out a cold laugh. No need, Miss Foster. Please leave. I have a girlfriend now. Show yourself out. Seeing Victoria Foster still kneeling there, unresponsive, I called security to drag her out. For the next few days, Victoria Foster showed up outside my company building like clockwork. I just shoot her a cold glance. The divestment agreement I sent to Foster Enterprises was returned by Mr. Foster. I knew what they were after, just a $5 million penalty clause. A few days later, I drafted a new mandatory divestment agreement, complete with a $5 million check for the penalty. This time, Foster Enterprises had no choice but to accept reality. But this didn't affect my plans. Foster Enterprises was hundreds of millions in the hole. A mere $5 million wasn't going to save them. Meanwhile, Victoria Foster was facing condemnation from our entire social circle. Some were friends sticking up for me. Others were just siding with the power and status of the Harrison Group. Either way, no one was willing to help the Foster family now. When Ryan Ellis heard Victoria had been begging me to take her back, he was furious. Ignoring Mr. and Mrs. Foster's reprimands, he stormed over to have a huge fight with Victoria, telling her to stop dreaming and just marry him and have his children. Given Victoria Foster's personality, she naturally refused. But breaking up with Ryan Ellis now would be admitting his affairs were true, making Foster Enterprises and Victoria herself the biggest joke in Pacific Heights. Left with no choice, Victoria Foster reluctantly agreed. A few months later, I heard Victoria Foster and Ryan Ellis had officially registered their marriage. But Victoria, who always loved romance, hadn't gotten a proposal or a wedding ceremony. After asking around, I found out Ryan Ellis clung to the belief that a starving camel is still bigger than a horse, thinking the Foster name still held weight. He also knew no other socialite would have him if he split up with Victoria, so he resorted to some underhanded tactics. He got her pregnant intentionally while she was drunk and vulnerable, taking advantage of her low spirits and nightly drinking binges. Victoria Foster had always been frail. Aborting the baby might mean she could never have children, so she was forced to marry him. But Ryan Ellis couldn't have imagined that society doesn't work the way he thinks. That starving camel adage only works in TV dramas. The reality was, once Foster Enterprises collapsed, they'd be saddled with hundreds of millions in debt. Banks would seize all their assets, creditors would hound them daily, and they'd be forced into living in hiding. Perhaps even without the baby, a shrewd man like Mr. Foster would have pressured Ryan Ellis into marrying Victoria anyway. But the social climbing Ryan Ellis was still gloating, thinking he'd finally broken into the upper echelons of society. He was taking the money Victoria had previously transferred to him and squandering it on lavish parties and keeping various bar hostesses. He'd even gone completely off the rails, becoming utterly reckless. What he didn't know was that once his money ran out, Victoria wouldn't be able to give him any more even if she wanted to. Right now, you could say he had more cash on hand than Foster Enterprises itself. With that money, he could have lived comfortably for the rest of his life, even provided a good life for Victoria and the child. But he spent it all buying luxury cars and villas for those other women. I couldn't help but sigh. Such ignorance could only lead to self-destruction. A few months later, Emily Sullivan and I got married, just as planned. Victoria Foster, heavily pregnant, was there too. She sat silently in a corner at the very back, watching the entire ceremony. In a daze, I caught a glimpse of her. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and maybe even glistening with tears. During the toasts, I walked right up to her. "Long time no see," I said, raising my glass. "This is for you. If it hadn't been for your decisiveness back then, maybe I wouldn't be this happy today, having met such a wonderful girl like Emily Sullivan." Tears streamed down Victoria Foster's cheeks. "Congratulations," she choked out. Maybe it was everything she'd been through, or maybe because she couldn't wear makeup during her pregnancy, but Victoria Foster looked like she'd aged 10 years. She seemed worn down, and even her clothes weren't as stylish as they used to be. Seeing her like that, I couldn't help but think about how different paths lead to different fates. One wrong step can lead to a cascade of mistakes. After the wedding, I took Emily Sullivan on the honeymoon in Maui she'd told me about wanting before. But, as luck would have it, we ran into Ryan Ellis right at the airport just after getting off the plane. The woman he had his arm around wasn't Victoria Foster, though. Ryan Ellis stormed towards me, ready to throw a punch. "Michael Harrison, you just don't quit, do you? Are you following me?" I grabbed his arm. "Like I have time for that. More importantly, don't you ruin my wife's and my honeymoon in Maui." The woman with Ryan Ellis tugged at his sleeve. He reluctantly lowered his fist, turned, and walked away. Thankfully, Ryan Ellis didn't show up again for the rest of the trip. Emily Sullivan and I visited 11 countries on our honeymoon. It felt like a much-needed, extended vacation for me. By the time we got home, 3 months had passed. Mom and Dad heard we were coming back and specially prepared a huge Sunday roast, waiting for us right at the front door. The moment they saw Emily Sullivan and me get out of the car, Mom was grinning from ear to ear, and Dad quickly took Emily's bags from her hands. It was clear they were absolutely thrilled with Emily Sullivan as their daughter-in-law. During dinner, Mom kept piling food onto Emily Sullivan's plate. Her dish was practically a mountain. I pretended to tease her to give Emily a break. "Mom, looks like now that you have a daughter-in-law, you've forgotten you even have a son." "Mom, Dad," and Emily all burst out laughing. Mom looked fondly at Emily. "Emily, dear, ever since I was young, I always wanted a daughter. From now on, just treat this place like your own home. I'll treat you like my own daughter. If this rascal here give you any trouble, I'll be the first one to step in." Later, listening to my parents and Emily Sullivan talking, I learned that my dad and Emily's dad had known each other for years. When my dad was young, he served in the military for a few years. Emily's father had been his best buddy in the military unit. Back then, they made a pact that their kids would marry someday, linking their families. I never expected that all these years later, through a twist of fate after my own troubles, I'd be the one, quite by accident, to fulfill that old promise for my dad. After a few days off, I got together with the guys. Over dinner, I heard Victoria Foster had given birth to a daughter. Apparently, Ryan Ellis wasn't happy about it, even calling Victoria a hag who couldn't give him a son. On top of that, Foster Enterprises is on the brink of bankruptcy and probably won't last much longer. Because of all this, Victoria developed severe postpartum depression. But instead of caring for her, Ryan Ellis just pressured her for money every day. How could she possibly come up with any? She couldn't even afford a postpartum doula when the baby was born. For a moment, time seemed to blur. I remembered when Victoria's eyes lit up as she asked me if I wanted a son or a daughter someday. I told her I wanted a daughter because watching her grow up would feel like getting a glimpse into Victoria's own childhood. Now Victoria actually had a daughter, but it had nothing to do with me. She was even being ruthlessly insulted. Honestly, I didn't feel much about it. If anything, I felt she brought it all on herself. But Victoria must deeply regret everything she did now. If she hadn't broken off our engagement, Foster Enterprises might be recovering with Harrison Group support. She'd probably be enjoying her postpartum time in a comfortable postpartum care center, cherished by my family. She knows all this, but it was her choice. Then again, Victoria probably never suspected that I never actually intended to marry her in the first place. Back when Harrison Group was just starting out, Foster Enterprises was still thriving. But Mr. Foster Sr. wasn't a good man. He constantly targeted my self-made father. He almost drove Harrison Group under several times. Luckily, my dad had a knack for business and managed to pull through. Harrison Group only started gaining ground when I was 20. Later, I fell for Victoria at first sight, but Mr. Foster looked down on me, calling me a rotten apple trying to spoil the barrel, accusing me of just looking for shortcuts. From that moment on, I secretly vowed to bring down Foster Enterprises. But for years, I couldn't find the right opportunity. Not until Victoria decided to sponsor Ryan Ellis, that social climber. It happened at our high school's Centennial Gala, where we were invited back as distinguished alumni. Victoria and I saw Ryan Ellis, then a high school senior, wearing an out-of-season uniform, being bullied in a corner by some bigger kids. After learning about his situation, parents deceased, raised by grandparents, but humble and top of his class, I felt sorry for him. I wanted to fund his education and bring him into Harrison Group, have him work for me. But Victoria, wanting to steal the spotlight, insisted she would sponsor him instead. Unexpectedly, once Ryan got a taste of the good life, he forgot where he came from and started scheming to seduce Victoria. I was young then, but not stupid. I saw exactly what was going on between them, but chose not to expose it. All these years, I pretended ignorance while secretly pulling strings behind the scenes. Ryan unknowingly became my pawn. Now, everything has unfolded just as I planned, perhaps even better than expected. In the blink of an eye, half a year has passed since this whole fiasco began. Victoria Foster, her postpartum depression left untreated, lost her mind. Ryan Ellis, utterly fed up with her, had her committed to a mental health facility. Foster Enterprises declared bankruptcy. Crushed by the massive debt, Victoria's mother jumped to her death. Only then did Ryan Ellis realize how foolish he had been. He wanted to turn his life around and find honest work, but Harrison Group's reputation preceded him. No one would hire him, no matter where he went. He ended up bussing tables in a restaurant for a while. But it's easy to get used to luxury and hard to go back to simplicity. Ryan couldn't handle his new life. Before long, he went to Pacific Heights and jumped into the sea. They say when his body was recovered, it was severely decomposed from the water. When the police went to his home, they found their baby stiff and starved to death on the floor. Later, I visited Victoria Foster at the mental health facility. As soon as she saw me, she'd cry out and lunge towards me. "Michael Harrison, you came to see me? Where's our baby?" Watching her rave like that, I said nothing. Then her crying would suddenly turn into laughter. "Michael Harrison, you're here to take me home, right? I'll pack my things and go with you right now." I just shook my head and ignored her. But out of pity, I paid her outstanding hospital bills at the mental health facility and told them I would cover all her future expenses. I didn't expect that a week later, I'd get a call from the hospital. Victoria had slipped past the nurses, gone up to the roof, and jumped. She left a letter for me. The nurse started reading it. Something about how she had wronged me in this life and would love me properly in the next. I cut her off before she could finish. Just throw the letter away. There's no guarantee of a next life, but even if there is, I wouldn't want to meet Victoria Foster again. After hanging up, I walked over to Emily Sullivan, who was cooking, and held her tightly from behind. Emily's voice was gentle. "What's wrong?" "Tired from looking at documents." I shook my head. "Emily, I'm so glad I met you in this life. In the next life, and the one after that, I still want to marry you." Emily turned around, hugged me back, and stood on her toes to kiss my forehead gently. "Okay, life is just a series of choices with inevitable consequences. Every step you take counts. I'm lucky in this life. I met Emily Sullivan.